Howdy folks, and welcome to, I'm not sure how many of these we've done now, but live Q&A with me, the Mighty Jingles, on the Salt Mines Discord server organised by Grumper Salty and the admins, and this is of course coming back after a break of probably 2 or 3 months, since this is the first one that we've done since I moved into the new place, which happened on March the 29th. Yeah, I've been here more than 2 months now. Wow, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Anyway, the purpose of this Q&A, well, it's not complicated, it's a Q&A. Everybody gets 15 minutes before the start to post questions in a Discord channel specifically for that purpose, so then I go through them and I attempt to answer as many as I can in the time that we have. This normally lasts about an hour, usually not less than an hour, sometimes longer than an hour, so we'll see how it goes. If I can't answer all of your questions, I do apologise, but thank you for asking them anyway. So, I don't actually have any announcements to make here, so we're just going to go straight ahead and answer the first question, which comes from Undead Warrior 34. He says, "Hi Jingles, I was wondering whether you're going to get into Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 again in place of the World of Warships until the replay bug is sorted." Oh, by the way, the replay bug is fixed on the public test server. It's not going to be rolled out onto the live servers until the next patch goes, but if you go to World of Warships Karma, there is a replay scanner there, so if you do watch replays, you can run them through the replay scanner and they will check whether or not they're infected for you. So, but back to the question. Love your videos, by the way. You're one of the only YouTubers I watch consistently every week. Well, thank you, Undead Warrior 34. Thanks for the question. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you find them entertaining. So, am I going to get into Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 again? Yes. Particularly since, and I know this is going to relate to another question later on, they've done the Top Gun Maverick collaboration. But the reason I'm not, I haven't been doing any Gnome Abroad videos, and I believe this is also going to answer another question later, recently, is because of the house move. So my upstairs is basically sorted. My lounge, kitchen, dining room is all good. My bedroom is sorted. I mean, I just need cupboards and a bed in the bedroom. That's fine. The home office / recording studio / modelling workshop is still in a temporary state. And I had a quote that it wouldn't be until August before I could get somebody in to build everything that I need, but that is now actually happening next month in July, so it's happening earlier than anticipated. But until I've got this place fully set up, I can only really run one computer because I've got a bunch of folding tables. It's basically just a room, but I've stuck some acoustic panels on the wall and a couple of folding tables for my PC. And the table just isn't big enough for the flight yoke and the throttle quadrant and all of the, the rudder pedals and all of that stuff, for me to have all of that and a mouse and keyboard on the same table. So once everything gets set up, I do have my backup PC, which I will probably set up as a dedicated flight sim station. And then, yes, I will be getting back into that sort of thing as well, and putting the occasional Gnome Abroad video up and talking about my travels in the Navy and all that sort of thing. So hopefully that answers your question. You're probably not going to see anything like that until August, because I think it's the 28th of July I'm having the carpenter in to set this room up for everything. But thanks for the question. Next question from Jack Ice. Yes, Jack, I am recording. This is why we start early. I don't know if you were present before the stream. It's not really a stream, but you know what I mean. When it took me 3, possibly 4 attempts to get everything recording, and my own voice covered through all the recording. So yeah, we learned our lesson the first time. We test everything thoroughly before we start. NB Thunderbolt, and this kind of relates to the first question from Undead Warrior 34, said, "Jingles, would you be willing to continue your Gnome Abroad series, or a series of videos about some of your sea stories? I love listening to them, but I have to troll through all of your videos to find most of them when I want to listen to them again. Also, loving the work you do and providing voiceover for the other channel projects. Have you considered doing that as a side gig? Love from your fans here in Seattle." Okay, a couple of questions there. I've mostly answered the one about Gnome Abroad. And occasionally when I remember something interesting, I do talk about my time in the Navy and Mingles with Jingles. But the voiceover work for the other channel projects, it's funny you should mention that, because I just did some voiceover work for, I'm sure you guys probably know Space Pig Shovel. He does the Anchored in History videos. He just did, quite recently, the first Battle of Narvik, and I've just done the commentary for the second Battle of Narvik, the one where the Warspite and a bunch of destroyers basically destroyed most of the German Navy. And that video will be coming out soonish. I can't say exactly when because I've done my part of it and now it's up to Space Pig Shovel. But he's, with the exception of the model of the Warspite, he's basically got all of the models because they were used in the first Battle of Narvik video. So the 3D models for all of the British destroyers, the Eskimo, the Foxhound, and so on and so on, the German destroyers, whose names I can't remember anymore. They're all there and ready to go. So he already has the assets, and it's just a question of getting the music and timing it together with the commentary and doing the effects and so on and so on. So that should be coming out relatively soon. Have I considered doing that as a side gig? Yeah, voiceover work. This is a question that people keep asking. Jingles, why don't you do audiobooks? I actually got offered an audiobook gig yesterday, but I had to turn it down. I don't know if you guys know Dave Lister, not the Red Dwarf character, the historian that I did an occasional museum visit with years and years ago. It's a friend, and he did, I can't remember his first book, but he self-publishes them on Audible, on Amazon as Kindle ebooks, and he's just released another one that I gave a shout out for a month or so ago, called Defeating the Panzerstücke Menace, which was the name that the Blitzkrieg was known by. And before people came up with the term Blitzkrieg, the Panzerstücke Menace. And it's mostly to do with spigot weapons. It's a very good book, I've read it, which is why I recommended it. And he gave me the chance of doing the Audible version of that, which I turned down because I don't think it's something that you can really do as a side gig, not when you're putting a video up on YouTube every day. You're basically reading an entire book. That's a big job, and it's not something I really have the time to do when I'm putting a YouTube video up. So, be careful what you wish for. If I was to go and start doing audiobooks, I wouldn't be able to put a video up every day. There just wouldn't be enough hours in the day for me to do it. So never say never, but probably not in the immediate future. Oh, and the very next question from Yamatog2. Jingles, have you ever considered doing professional voice acting work as a side job? Yeah. Well, there we go. 2 questions for the price of 1. Like I said, this YouTube gig, I don't work as hard now as I did when I was in the Navy, but I still put a good few hours in every day, and there just aren't enough hours in the day for me to be able to do the YouTube and professional voice acting. It's a shame, actually, because those of you who do take advantage of my Audible sponsorship, James Hornfisher died last year. His new book, Who Can Hold the Sea, just came out on Audible. Also available as a Kindle ebook, obviously, and as an actual physical copy of the book. And he, because he was a literary agent before he was an author, so he's got all kinds of contacts, especially in the big publishing houses in New York. And he did say that he would look into trying to get me some audiobook narration gigs. And then he sadly died, which is, is terrible. I mean, he was only, 55? Way too young. But at the same time, it's very much a case of you have to pick one or the other, or have absolutely no free time whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to do it, but things would have to change. Next question. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, Jingles.
Yeah. This is sorry. Hang on. This is Helix Folks, by the way, just so everybody knows who is speaking. The Love Muffin, yes, from the last Q&A.
General War Stories was the name of Dave Lister's first book.
Thank you. Yes, that was it. He's pretty good, I have to say, because I love reading historical books. But the thing about a lot of historians is that while their research is top-notch, a lot of them can't write for shit. there's one tank historian in particular who I love dearly, and I'm not going to mention his name here, but there is nothing that he doesn't know about tanks. But it's like reading an owner's technical manual, reading his books. Um, there's a lot of information and a lot of knowledge in there, but it's difficult to read. So most of the historians that I like reading didn't start off as historians. People like Max Hastings, who was a journalist. People like Tom Holland, no, not Tom Holland, he's the Spider-Man actor. Uh, Alec Holland, I think is his name, who was a historical novelist. You know, he wrote stuff like, well, I don't think he wrote the Sharp books, but he wrote stuff, no, that was Bernard Cornwell, wasn't it? But he wrote stuff like that before he started writing history. So they know how to, and James Hornfisher as well, he was a literary agent and a writer before he became a historian. So they know how to write, which makes it much, much easier to read and enjoy and understand and absorb their historical documentaries. You know what I mean? Dave Lister's got that as well. He's a pretty good writer, you know, as well as getting in there and doing the primary research and digging up all this amazing information on stuff that people had never heard of.
Oh yeah.
This is Grumps, by the way.
Hello, if you can actually hear me. I'm just gonna stick a reminder in here for you when you're editing this video. Play Elite Dangerous Odyssey.
Elite Dangerous Odyssey, really? That's
Yep, that's the one with the carrier interiors.
yeah, because I haven't played that probably in about 6 to 8 months because of the utter train wreck that it was. So they've now cancelled, completely cancelled. You know how we were saying, oh right, everything's broken, and they're going to wait until they've done the console release and then fix everything at the same time, and now they've just cancelled the console release entirely. So yeah.
They have made some very significant improvements since you last played.
Okay, I'll flash. I'll still keep it up to date, so I could be playing it 10 minutes from now. I won't because I'm still going to do this Q&A, but yeah, I'll take another look. Thank you. Inquisition. Hi, Salt Lord Jingles. My brother introduced me to you 9 years ago. Wow. And I've been addicted ever since. Can you please say hi to my brothers Hamza and Noni? Hello, Hamza and Noni. And thank you for introducing Inquisition to my channel. I'm pleased you all enjoy it. Oh, here comes the good question. I mean, they've all been good questions, but from Soggy Sao, a couple of questions. Have you seen Top Gun Maverick and what do you think of it? Okay, so we'll address this first question because I know many of you have also seen it and also loved it. And I did love Top Gun Maverick. I thought it was an amazingly entertaining movie. I thought Tom Cruise was fantastic in it. I mean, he might be as mad as a box of frogs in real life, but he was born to play that role. There was just the minimal amount of Hollywood bullshit in it, which had me rolling my eyes with it. Oh, God, really?
The opening scene.
I didn't mind that so much. But when they're doing the attack run and they're flying through the valley underneath the radar so that the missile systems wouldn't be able to attack them on the way in. What was this? Remember, they're flying down this valley at supersonic speeds, 200 feet below a bunch of missile launchers. What was to stop somebody from looking out the window or hearing the supersonic fighters screaming through the valley below them? Was my first question.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And my second question, because remember they had to come in at low level because they couldn't just drop a laser guided bomb from 60,000 feet because of all of these radar guided missile launchers covering the target. Radar guided missile launchers that apparently can be fooled by flares and lock onto targets that are, once they cleared the target and they were on the way out, suddenly all these missiles started firing at them from a range of 500 meters. I believe missiles need to get a target lock and some kind of running start. And trust me, any missile that can lock on and hit you from a range of 500 meters, you are perfectly safe from at an altitude of 60,000 feet. So apart from that, yeah, I love the movie. And I mean, that didn't spoil it for me. It was just a bit of, oh, God, really? It's just, do you not have military advisors on this thing? But, you know, whatever, fine. I do have to say, oh no, I can't say this actually because of spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, because it hasn't been out that long. But there were two major plot points, because I went to see it with Eddie. And right before they happened, I turned around to Eddie and said, this is going to happen now, and this is going to happen now. And it absolutely did. So I should be writing Hollywood movies for a living. The second question from Soggy Sam. How can we find you at the Expo Centre in July for the London Film and Comic Con? What days will we be attending? I'll be going as Rick Flag with the yellow t-shirt from the Suicide Squad, and his girlfriend's going as another iteration of Harley Quinn. Okay. Eddie and I are going up for one day only on the Sunday. I'm going to be seeing Claire Kramer, who played Glory in season 5 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Katie Sackhoff, who probably doesn't need any introduction, Starbuck from I keep saying the new Battlestar Galactica, but that's 10 years old now as well. And obviously Bo-Katan in The Mandalorian and The Clone Wars. I will be dressed as Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian. So that should narrow the options down a little. If you see any Moff Gideons, particularly any old, fat, bald, white Moff Gideons wandering around, that's probably going to be me. So yeah, sure, if you're going to be there, this was at the Olympia Centre in London. I forget the date. I think it's the 7th, 8th, 9th of July. It's the weekend of around the 7th of July. That's London Film and Comic Con. And if you see me, by all means, stop, say hello, get a picture taken. Look forward to meeting all of you if you're attending. And I'll keep my eye open for a Rick Flag with the yellow t-shirt, yes. Played by Joel Kinnaman, I believe. Who I really, really liked in the first season of Altered Carbon. Didn't like him so much in the new RoboCop movie, which was not very good. But he was good at it. There's a question here from Maxie Bear. Jingles, was it true that Rita liked watching you take a dump? It's not true, no, but it's a good question, so thanks for asking. Akiaki Kia Kaha says they have the Dark Star in Flight Sim 2020-10. Yeah. The Dark Star was the experimental hypersonic ramjet that Tom Cruise was test flying at the beginning of the Top Gun Maverick movie. And yeah, and you can attempt to get it up to Mach 10 in the game as well. I watched a couple of videos of it. It's not just as simple as opening the throttle and going into a shallow climb. It's more complicated than that, but it is doable. Moving on. Flimsy lunch tray. Jingles, knowing that you get hundreds of emails every week for replay submissions, is there anything helpful for those submitting a replay to you that makes your process of choosing easier, such as the subject of the email, content of the body of the email, and so forth? For example, I have a Prince Heinrich ranked match, 7 vs 7 from April. I'm dying for you to see where I killed the entire enemy team and picked up the solo warrior. Wow. Okay, well, if it's from April, I'm probably not going to be able to watch it because it's in an old version of the game. So that's a bit of a shame because that sounds like a good game to watch. But yeah, that's a very good question. You would be astonished at the number of people who do everything right. Right? They put a concise, short description of what happens in the title, because when I'm scrolling through Gmail, all I see is a list of titles. So if you can grab my attention with the title, that's good. But please do try to remember to include the actual replay, or at the very least a link to it. You would be amazed the number of times every day I see a title like 7 kills, random battle, solo warrior. I'm thinking, wow, that sounds like fun. And they've told me about this amazing battle that they played, and there's no link to the replay on worldofwarshipsreplays.com, and they haven't attached a replay file or any screenshots. So, you know, I'd like to watch that, but I can't because you didn't fucking send it. So, yes, absolutely. Make sure the title is good enough to grab my attention, but above all else, remember to send a replay or the actual link to it.
Hang on a minute, that sounds like something you would do.
It does sound like something I would do. Yes, yeah. If the situation was reversed, I guarantee I would have done that myself at least once. But, you know, fortunately it isn't. So I can actually look clever this time around because there's no chance of me ever actually doing that. Moving on. Did anything interest you from the new game and movie TV show trailers released this week? This is from Andrew. I was watching something the other day. Oh, yes, that was it. I'm not sure what it's coming out on. I think it's coming out on Hulu first, although it'll probably spread to Netflix and Amazon Prime. There's a Predator TV show called Prey that looks... I mean, I'm wary of trailers. You can make anything look good in a trailer. I got excited for The Phantom Menace as a result of seeing the trailers. I thought Alien Prometheus looked good as a result of watching the trailer. But this does look really, really good. It's basically predators in early colonial North America with Native American tribes and settlers, white settlers, with early muskets, having to fight a predator. And it looks incredible. So I'm definitely wanting to be watching that. Actually, speaking of streaming services, because again, I think it's coming out on Hulu, which I don't have, and I'm never going to get, because at the moment I'm paying for, let's see, Amazon Prime, so Prime Video, Netflix, obviously, I think pretty much everybody has Netflix, Disney Plus, which I would recommend, it's worth it. It's not just Disney stuff, they've got stars on there as well, so there's all kinds of movies and TV shows on there that aren't, Disney. Unfortunately, yeah, we'll talk about the Obi-Wan TV show in a moment. It's terrible. But, I mean, that's 3 different subscriptions I'm paying for every month. So, and I think I've talked about this before, there's some great stuff on Apple Plus that I'd love to watch. For example, the Tom Hanks World War II convoy escort movie, Greyhound, which has only ever been available on Apple Plus. It was never released in the movies. If you wanted to see it, you can't buy a DVD of it. If you want to watch it, you have to have an Apple Plus subscription. And honestly, Apple can go fuck themselves because they're evil. There's a TV show that I was watching, a Red Letter Media recap of the first half of 2022. And I can't remember what it was called, but it looked really good. Only available on Apple Plus. There's another TV show. Again, I can't remember the name of it. That's basically, it's kind of like a Stephen King sort of thing, where you've got people driving across America and they get into this town and which way's the highway. Oh yeah, head down that road through the woods and stick to the left. So they head down the road through the woods, stick to the left, and they end up driving straight back into the town they've just come from. Actually, I think it's called From. I think that's the name of the TV show. So it's a horror TV show. It cannot leave the town. Everybody in the town cannot leave. You try to leave, they just end up on the road straight back in. And if you're outside after dark, the monsters get you. And this looks really, really good. I watched trailers, I watched clips, I was like, how do I get this? And it was only available as an ePix subscription. I thought, what the hell's that? So it's an American streaming service. I was like, Then said that it's also available on Amazon Prime with a subscription to a Prime Video channel. So this is another thing that Amazon Prime Video have done, because you used to just pay your annual Prime subscription and you got everything. And that was obviously way too good a deal. So now they started adding add-on subscription channels, so like a horror channel or a comedy channel or so on and so on. It's not that expensive, but it all adds up when you're paying for multiple different streaming services. But I really, really like the look of this show. So I thought, whatever. Went to Amazon Prime, looked for this add-on channel, not available. What the hell's going on? So I did a bit more research. Only available in the USA. I want to give them my money. This was the same thing that happened with Disney Plus and The Mandalorian. I wanted to give them my money. I was like, shut up and take my money. And they were saying, no, we don't want your money. Pirate it instead. Anyway, I've forgotten what the question was now. Oh, yes. Game and movie TV show trailers released this week. Isn't Prey a movie, though? He said it's just edited. I don't know. I know it's coming out on Hulu. It could be a movie. It could be a TV show. I think it would probably work better as a movie. You may be right. Either way, I definitely want to watch it. If it's coming out on Hulu, there's a good chance you'll be able to buy it, to rent or buy on Amazon Prime. But if there's something out that you really, really want to watch and it's on Apple Plus, forget it. you need an Apple Plus subscription, and Apple can go fuck themselves because they're evil. So, that just shuts down a whole bunch of stuff that I'd love to watch and I would happily pay for if it was actually available for me to pay for and wasn't on Apple Plus. So, yeah. Basement Jesus. Jingles, if the salt miners of the Discord were a post-Horus Heresy Space Marine chapter with you as the chapter master, what would happen to us on a career level? Would we crusade successfully until the end of time or become corrupted by chaos? I guess everybody's expecting me to say become corrupted by chaos because I am an evil gnome overlord. But none of the chaos gods, well, that's the thing. None of the chaos gods really appeal to me. But at the same time, it doesn't matter because there are no good guys in the Warhammer 40k universe. The Imperium of Man is evil to its core. So, I mean, look at the way that individual freedom doesn't exist. Alien races get purged just for being alien and for living on planets that we want. So I could be a loyalist chapter master and still be thoroughly evil. It would all work. It's not a problem. Next question. How are we doing for time? About halfway through. This is pretty good. We're cracking through the questions today. This is from H. Glorious Overlord. Thank you. I find myself wondering whether you've been following the recent developments in the development of Sea Power, the modern naval combat game from the same designers as Cold Waters. It's recently had some updates on how it's going. It looks very interesting. I wonder if you might play it when it comes out. Actually, no. I haven't been following that. I didn't realise that the designers of Cold Waters had a new game coming along. I will have to look at that. Thank you, H. That's really good. There was another one. There was a game that I did. It originally came out as a mobile game. Atlantic Fleet. Was that it? They did a sequel, which I got very excited about because I loved Atlantic Fleet. And the sequel was a bit shit. I'm very disappointed. I remember setting up a skirmish battle once with a bunch of Japanese carriers in the USS North Carolina. But this may have just been me. Not the Carolina, sorry, the USS Iowa. And this may have just been me being crap, but I don't think it was. Because I had the Iowa shooting at these carriers for 25 minutes without scoring a hit. It was just, what the hell is going on? I don't know if you remember in Atlantic Fleet, when you locked onto a target, your initial couple of salvos would probably miss. But that was fine, because they're ranging salvos. As long as you kept firing at the same target, your shots were getting more and more accurate as the gunners got the range. And that just did not seem to be happening in this game. I can't remember what it was called. I'll have a quick look. I might have to edit this down, because I know I've got it on Steam.
I know it's to be expected of the Iowa.
Okay, I didn't understand either of that, because you're both talking over each other.
Yeah, go on, Grumpy, you say your thing.
I was just going to say, that is to be expected of the Iowa.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say Atlantic Fleet's the one where you set your actions for your ship and then time moves for a bit.
Yes.
And then it stops and then you set your actions again.
Yes.
And I think it did have a sequel. It was crap.
Yes, it just didn't really work at all. It just wasn't very good. It wasn't even as good as the older game upon which it was based. It had more options. There was a lot more stuff to do, but the stuff that you could do didn't really work. When I come to stick this up on YouTube, I'll put something up on screen telling you what the name of the game was. It may work, actually. Maybe I shouldn't do that because, I don't know, maybe I was playing it in early access. Maybe it is now fixed and good. We shall see. Either way, I know it's not expensive, so if you want to give it a go, if you like the look of Atlantic Fleet, when I actually do remember what the name of this game is.
War on the Sea?
War on the Sea, that's it. I just set up that skirmish battle and thought, this is shit. This is terrible. It just doesn't work, and I've never played it again since. They've all certainly improved it since then. Who's this? Dark Angel Fallen. Jingles, what's your favourite science fiction warship? Also, have you seen the new season of The Boys yet? Okay, I'll answer the second one first. No, I haven't. I'm saving it. At the moment, I'm watching the new season of Stranger Things, which I didn't have high hopes for because of how mediocre the third season of Stranger Things was. And it's way better than I was expecting, at least so far. I'm about halfway through. And I'm saving The Boys. I mean, I just watched. Oh, this was another thing. Peacemaker. You know, the Peacemaker from Suicide Squad, played by John Cena, got his own TV show. Every episode was written by James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, and he directed at least the first 5 episodes. So they're really, really good. John Cena is way, way better than he has any right to be. And I've forgotten where I was going with this. This is what happens when you get to our age, isn't it, Grumps? Halfway through a sentence, you forget what you were talking about. Okay, let me go back. Let me go back to the question. Favorite science fiction warship? That was it. And also, have you seen the new season of The Boys yet? Yes. Because I was gutted when I heard, because my friend James Brooksby, the former CEO of Edge Case Games, told me about this Peacemaker TV show. I was like, oh yeah, I need to see that. And then realised it was on a network a streaming service that I can't remember which one it was, that I'm not going to fork out money for another subscription for. But then it eventually came out as something that you could buy on Amazon. So I did, and I didn't regret it because it was amazing. Apple's never going to do that. Which is why it was one of the many reasons why I hate Apple. But I watched all of that. I'm currently watching Stranger Things. I'm rewatching The Expanse for the 3rd time on Tuesdays with Eddie. He comes over and we have like a movie day or a board game day or whatever. And I'm saving The Boys. Again, I got kind of disappointed with The Boys. Partially because they started veering away from the story in the comics, which was perfect and didn't need changing. But they started doing their own thing. But I get it. If you're going to do an adaptation of a comic book, you're not necessarily going to do the comic books, frame by frame. That's fine. I just didn't like the direction they were taking it. And the last season started off good, then got shit real fast halfway through the season. And I stopped watching it. But then other people were saying, no, yeah, the middle is terrible, but it redeems itself in the last 3-4 episodes. So I tried it again, and they were right. It did redeem itself in the last couple of episodes. So I was kind of, should I, shouldn't I, about The Boys, the new season. But then I saw the trailer, and I saw the Colonel with the serum that makes them all soups for 24 hours. And I thought, okay, that's kind of what happens in the comics as well, sort of-ish. So maybe they're trying to steer things back onto a well-written course. So yeah, I am looking forward to it, but I'm saving it for when I've finished everything else that I'm currently watching. But it's on Amazon Prime, and I have Amazon Prime, so it's not going to go away. But I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, apologies. I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy indulging in a glass of Dalwhinnie 15.
What time is it where you are, Grips?
10:33 p.m.
Yeah, so that's fine. The sun is not yet over the yard where I am, so I'm still on the coffee. Next question from Flame2512. Long-time viewer, first-time question asker. I may have missed it, but what happened to the FE3805 restoration? Okay, this is a question that keeps popping up. Not often, but every year or so. Those of you who have long enough memories may recall that there was an FE3805 at at an armour museum. I forget the name of it, in the Isle of Wight.
The one on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, it's in the Isle of Wight, and it was in reasonably good condition. Obviously, it was covered in rust. So we organised. They were trying to restore it anyway, and we said, well, we'll help. And we organised fundraising, and a whole bunch of people went over and had a great day actually doing work on the machine. What happened to the project? Honestly, I don't know, because of financial mismanagement with the funds that were being raised. Now, I need to stress this was not anything that the museum itself did wrong, but the museum didn't actually own the machine. They don't own a lot of the machines that they have there. And I was given a Type 59 by World of Tanks to auction off, with the proceeds going to the museum. And I ended up holding this money for months, unable to find anybody at the museum or involved in the project that was willing to take the money off me. It eventually got resolved. It was down to a whole bunch of communication errors, and there was nothing malicious. Nobody was trying to steal money from the project. Nothing like that was happening. But there was so much financial mismanagement going on that I just thought, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this. So once that was all done, I just stepped back from it, because I can't be getting involved in anything. I mean, there wasn't anything suspicious going on, but it could have looked like there was something suspicious going on. And something suspicious could very easily go on when the finances were being mismanaged as badly as was happening. So yeah, I have no idea what happened to the FV305 restoration. For the reasons that I've given, I stepped away from that years ago.
The museum's called the White Military and Heritage Museum.
That's it. It's a great
I
museum.
Went there.
Yeah, very, very good
went
little
there
museum.
A couple of years. It is, yeah, very lovely. And I went there a couple of years after you did that video on it, and it looked like it was in the same condition it was in when you finished the video, basically.
Yeah, they probably ran out of money, because the money couldn't go to the museum. It had to go to the owner. And the owner doesn't even live in this country, so I don't know what happened to the money. It went to the person that it was supposed to go to, and after that I lost any interest. So, General WCJ. Jingles, what would your primary non-fiction book recommendation be? Oh, you really want me to narrow it down to just one? Okay. Shit. Well, it's gonna...
I mean, you...
Yeah?
When we met for lunch, you did mention those books that I cannot remember the names of now, and I wanted to remember them, but I can't.
It's probably anything by James Hornfisher. Ship of Ghosts is the one that I don't think I've really talked about much. It's the story of the USS Houston from the Battle of the Java Sea. The first half of the book is the Battle of the Java Sea, where the Abda forces got their asses handed to them, and then HMAS Perth and the USS Houston tried to run through the Java Sea to get out and escape, and they ran into a Japanese invasion fleet at night, and they both got sunk. And the second half of the book is talking about the captivity of the USS Houston crew at the hands of the Japanese, and it's pretty nasty. But then, of course, there's the Neptune's Inferno, the Naval Battle of Guadalcanal, 6-month-long Naval Battle of Guadalcanal by James Hornfisher, last stand of the Tin Can Sailors. Was it Taffy 32? Task Force 32. No, Taffy 3, sorry, Task Force 3. At the counter-invasion of the Philippines, when a bunch of escort carriers and destroyers got bounced by a battle fleet, including the Yamato. An amazing story. More amazing because it actually happened. And of course, the fleet at flood tide, post-Midway, through to the end of the war, the US Navy in the Pacific. So any of those books by James Hornfisher, but I'd also like to recommend something that I don't regularly pimp out. And I can't remember who wrote it, but I'll find out because I've got the book on a shelf upstairs. And it's called Uncle Jim. And it's the biography of Field Marshal the Viscount Slim, who, when we talk about British generals in World War II, everybody knows Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, because he was as much a self-publicist as Douglas MacArthur, so everybody's heard of him. But nobody's heard of Field Marshal Slim, who was the other Field Marshal we had, because his army, the 14th Army, was basically forgotten. This was the British Army in Burma and India. And this guy, he wasn't a member of the nobility or anything, excuse me, even though he was made a Viscount for his service to the Crown. He was from Birmingham. He was a working class kid, joined the Indian Army, became an officer, served various different campaigns on the Northwest Front, and eventually rose to the rank of Field Marshal and overall command of more forces than Montgomery ever commanded in the Western Theatre. and he was an astonishing fella. Looked after his men above anything else, ensured that they were properly trained, and basically turned the British Army in the East, retreating from Burma all the way through, from Singapore all the way through back to India, and then defending India against the invading Japanese, turned a defeated, demoralised army into a first-class fighting force and kicked the Japanese arse all the way back the way they came. And hardly anybody's ever heard of him, which I think is criminal. So I'll remember the name of the book. Well, I think the book's called Uncle Jim. I'll remember the name of the author. Oh, go for it.
Russell Miller.
Okay. It's a good read as well. The books are going 3 inches thick. And it's one of these historical books that is well written as well as being an interesting subject. So I couldn't possibly give you one recommendation, but any of those would be great. Duncan says, just double check you're actually recording. Yeah. I see the recording icon, and I also see the microphone on icon, so we should all be good. Oh, God, we're not even halfway through the questions. We're coming to the end of the Q&A. Black Eye says, what was your worst Navy experience, which in hindsight you find just hilarious? Worst Navy experience? That's a good question, actually, because normally when people view the past through rose-tinted glasses, don't they? I was actually having this conversation with Eddie the other day because he keeps thinking about this, this ship was great, this ship was great, that ship was fantastic. And then he stops and thinks, actually, I had some really shit times on that ship, but I don't remember those. When I think of that ship, I just think of all the good times. And I keep going on about how the HMS Newcastle was the best ship ever, because it was the best ship ever. And I still had some shit times on that ship, but nowhere near as many as I did on others. And obviously, this is going to be a subjective thing, because I hated every moment I spent on board HMS Manchester, which was the last ship I served on. And I think that's probably because, well, there wasn't anything wrong with HMS Manchester. The people I worked with were, bad. It was just that it was the last deployment I went on. So I was over 40. I was old, fat, unfit, and I joined them in Valparaiso in Chile, in summer, in South America. Now, I don't handle heat well at the best of times. And Type 42 destroyers were not designed to operate in hot climates. They were designed to operate up in the North Atlantic. So they were reasonably good at keeping you warm. They were terrible at keeping you cool. And I just suffered all the way through that 6-month deployment. And as a result, hated every second that I spent on board that ship. But if I was to say a bad experience that when I look back at, I found hilarious. So this was on HMS Newcastle. The logistics officer on there was a guy called Lieutenant Commander Melville Brown. We just called him Melville Clown, because he wasn't a bad person. He wasn't nasty or anything, but he was just a dick. He was just a largely incompetent idiot. He acted first before thinking, just about. And every possible situation where he had the opportunity to react without thinking, he would always react without thinking, and it would always be the wrong thing. So, he was harmless. He was just a harmless idiot. God knows how he got to. Well, then again, you stay in the Navy long enough, you'll reach the rank as an officer. You'll reach the rank of lieutenant commander. If you're still an idiot and they promote you to commander, somebody's screwed up. So anyway, he's lieutenant commander. Hopefully that's as high as he ever went. And we were doing store ship. So we're alongside Portsmouth, tied up on Fountain Lake jetting, and it was not a very nice day. Everybody on the upper deck was wearing their foul weather gear. It had been raining, and we had been doing a store ship for the chefs. So all kinds of bags of food and stuff, including sacks of potatoes, Hessian sacks, and the potatoes hadn't been washed before they were put into the sacks. They were covered in mud, and it had been raining. So my foul weather jacket was just slicked with mud from the rain penetrating the Hessian sack and turning the dirt on the potatoes to mud. And as everybody had been coming up the gangway and over the flight deck, taking all of these sacks of potatoes and stuff to the food elevators, there was just this long line of mud all the way across the flight deck. And of course, as everybody walked through it, the mud was getting spread all over the place. Now, I didn't have to do this. This wasn't my job. But I thought, what the hell? I'll clean the mud up. So I turned around to the quartermaster and said, Jock, I'm just going to set up one of the fire hoses and clean this shit off for you. And he was like, oh, fantastic. Yeah, great, go for it. Thanks very much. Now, at the same time, the lead and seaman specialists were over the side in one of the ship's boats, repainting the boot topping. So the boot topping is, I don't know if you look at a warship, it's grey, but then at the waterline, there's a line of black. Well, that's called the boot topping. So they were repainting the boot topping over the side, and I don't know if you can hear the cat scratching at something. That's Juicy. She's scratching at the wavy mirror. She doesn't like it either. Hello, Juicy. You're going to be a good girl. Okay. So the two Killick specs are over the side in this rigid inflatable boat, painting the boot topping. And I go and I rig up this fire hose to basically spray the deck clean and clean off the flight deck. So I'm rigging this fire hose, and I start it up, and I'm just going ahead. I'm warned everybody, get clear. I'm going to set the fire hose up and we'll get this mud gone. And then the logistics officer sees me and thinks, oh, I'll take charge of this. Didn't need taking charge of. Nobody told me to do it. I didn't have to do it. I was just doing it because it needed doing. But no, he had to take charge, exercise his authority. And he's, I'm like, here we go. And he's like, get it in the corner over there. Bear in mind, we're on the flight deck. And in the corner over there meant that I would basically be drenching the two Killick specs over the side, painting the boot topping. And I tried to tell him, but, he was a lieutenant commander. He doesn't have to listen to irks like me. And I repeatedly tried to tell him what was going to happen, but he just wasn't listening, and eventually he snapped. So just shut up and do as you're told. Fair enough. From over the side. Oi! Oh, of course. I'll give him his credit. I'll give him credit where credit's due. He didn't try to blame it on me, but everybody was laughing their ass off at this utter dick, because they could all. The flight deck's a busy area on the ship alongside, because it's where the gangway is, where everybody comes on board and leaves the ship. So there were multiple witnesses at what an utter tosspot this guy was. Although he didn't at least try to blame it on me, I will give him that much. But that was pretty funny. The other thing, he used to do magic tricks. So, whenever anybody saw him, people would just go, and he thought it was because he did magic tricks. He didn't realise it was because his nickname was the Clown. So you could actually do it within earshot and he wouldn't be upset. Oh, what an idiot. What an utter idiot that man was. But anyway, yeah. Moving on to the next question. This is reposted from Daddy in the East. Oh, actually, no, I missed one from Sodium Chloride. I can answer this one really quickly. Jingles, are you planning on coming down to Australia for Australian Armour Fest 2022 at the end of August? Hell no. I've got a mortgage now. I can't afford to fly to Australia for a tank show. I mean, I'd love to. I would really love to, but yeah, no, that's never going to happen. I was actually watching a documentary on YouTube the other day. In fact, just yesterday. I say documentary, some YouTube video about Australia and the population density and things, the words that I can't think of to do with Australia. Because Australia has a population. Australia is the same size as the continental United States of America. And it has a population less than England. And 98% of that population is in 5 cities. Canberra, Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney. Which means it is the most urbanised population in the world, despite the fact that 95% of the country is basically uninhabited. it's an astonishing place, which I would love to visit, but that shit's expensive, and I have a mortgage now, so no, not going to happen. Certainly not for a tank show, unfortunately. If I could arrange a visit to Australia and stay there for a month or so and really get around and see the place at the same time as they were doing some stuff like Australian Armour Fest, then yeah, absolutely. But I'm not I'm not going to remortgage the house just to go and see a tank show in Australia. Daddy in the East. Reposting the questions, since Jingles apparently cannot see older questions. Oh yeah, when I first looked at the Q&A channel, for some bizarre reason, which hopefully is now fixed, I couldn't actually see the questions that had already been posted. So I did ask everybody, repost your questions. And Daddy in the East says, Jingles, if you're accidentally thrown at the past and with a position of power to make changes that stick, what would you change, if at all? Ooh, that's a good one. And it's probably something that deserves a bit more thought than me just spitting out an instant answer. But, again, I was talking earlier about Dave Lister's new book, Defeating the Panzer Stuka Menace. So, you know what depth charges are. Right? Everybody's seen movies with depth charges, playing all the warships, you know how depth charges roughly are supposed to work. The thing about depth charges is that they are a very good weapon, but their hit rate is abysmal. I mean, you don't have to directly hit the submarine with the depth charge because it's an explosive device, but even so, the hit rate of depth charges was abysmally low, like something like 2%. And there were a number of reasons for that. Because with I'm going to call it sonar, even though at the time it was called ASDIC, but with the sonar sets at the time, they looked forward. And that meant that when you were in a position to drop the depth charges on the submarine contact, you had lost contact with the submarine because you were over the top of it. And then also the explosions of the depth charges would mean that you wouldn't be able to hear shit on the hydrophone, so it would take time to reacquire the target, if you even could. All of this basically meant that the submarine got the chance to change course, depth, before you launched the depth charges, which resulted in this ridiculously low percentage of effective depth charge attacks. Then, a bunch of people, and again this is all covered in Dave's book, came up with spigot weapons, so stuff like the Piat, that sort of spring-powered anti-tank shape charge launcher that you see them using in A Bridge Too Far when the Paras are defending the bridge against the German armoured attack that comes over. Stuff like that is a spigot weapon. And the most famous spigot weapon of World War II was the Hedgehog launcher, which you've probably seen. These racks of bombs that would get launched ahead of the ship, so you could maintain hydrophone contact on the submarine all the way through the attack. And whereas sailing over an exploding depth charge would probably break the back of your ship, sailing over a pattern of hedgehogs wouldn't, because they had to actually hit the target in order to explode, and the charge wasn't big enough to be a problem to the ship that had launched them, but it was big enough to be a major problem to a single pressure hull submarine. And despite the fact that you needed to actually score a direct hit, because these shape charge bomblets, they would fire so many of them that the chance of actually scoring a hit went from 2% with a depth charge to at least 40% with a hedgehog launcher. And they had this by 1943. They had this war-winning weapon, because Churchill said that the only thing that kept him awake at night throughout the whole course of World War II were the U-boats. That was he was sick with dread about the U-boats strangling Britain. And yet, the training and the installation of the hedgehogs was done in such a slap-hazard way that the crews didn't know how to use them properly until late 1944. This was scandalous, although it wasn't widely known at the time. But we had this war-winning weapon in the Royal Navy from as early as 1943 that the crews didn't know how to use because they hadn't been trained properly on it. They hadn't been installed properly, so half the time they didn't work properly, and they just didn't trust. Instead would prefer to just use their depth charges. So if I could be thrown into the passive position and make power to make changes that stick, I would ensure that the hedgehogs were installed properly, that enough funding was given, and that crews were trained on them so that they trusted the weapon and knew how to use it effectively. And the difference that would have made on the war would have been just ridiculous. So I dare say if I had more time to think of an answer to the question, I could have come up with something else. But as an initial reaction, given that I have just finished reading that book, that's what I would do. And I think we're coming up to an hour now, so I'm going to have to knock this on the head soon. Fantastic final question. There may be some spoilers here, okay? So if you don't want, basically from Banort, hello Sir Gnome Overlord, have you been watching the Kenobi show and what are your thoughts? Okay. For anybody in the audience here in the live Q&A who doesn't want any spoilers for the Kenobi TV show, thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. You should leave now. Also, for anybody watching this on YouTube, on Monday as Mingles with Jingles, thank you for watching this far. Please feel free to go ahead and leave now. For everybody who is still here, it is utter dog shit. I was so looking forward to this Kenobi show because it's Ewan McGregor. He's great. And it's Ben Kenobi. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, let me tell you the number of different ways in which this show goes wrong. So it's all set 10 years after the last prequel movie. Leia and Luke are 10 years old. Luke living with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru on Tatooine, and Leia as a ward of Bail Organa, played by the fantastic Jimmy Smits on Alderaan. The show is supposed to be about Obi-Wan Kenobi. You can tell that by the title. It's called fucking Kenobi. And what was Kenobi's job? Looking after Luke. So you see a 10-year-old Luke at the end of a set of macro binoculars from a distance of about a kilometre for about 4 seconds in this show. I've seen the first 3 episodes. I haven't seen the 4th one yet because I can't make myself watch it. Bail Organa's job is to look after Leia. So there are these Sith Inquisitors. And one in particular is called Third Sister, played by... don't know the actress's name. She actually does a pretty good job of playing this character. It's just that the character is shit for reasons which I'll go into a moment. So she's determined to find Ben Kenobi so she can hand him over to Vader and curry favour with Vader. And somehow, and it's never explained, she not only knows that Leia and Luke are Vader's children, she knows that Vader is Anakin Skywalker. Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't even know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker, so how the fuck? Right, the only people that know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker is Vader and the Emperor. So how the fuck she knows, I don't know. There'll probably be some bullshit explanation for it in the final episode. I don't know, I don't care. I've already started switching off at this point. How does she know that his kids, and how does she know where they are? Leia and Alderaan. Well, she knows about Leia and Alderaan. She doesn't necessarily know about Luke on Tatooine because she has Leia kidnapped in order to draw Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding. How would kidnapping Leia Organa draw Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding? He's looking after Luke. It's Bail Organa's job. The guy in charge of the whole planet of Alderaan. It's his job to look after Leia. He can send the entire Alderaan army looking for the kidnappers. What does he do? He flies to Tatooine, sits waiting in Kenobi's cave, and demands that he goes and look for her. It's not his fucking job to protect Leia. It was Bail Organa's job, and you fucked it up. Who's going to be looking after Luke when Kenobi's trotting around the galaxy trying to find Leia? Well, apparently that question wasn't worth asking because he goes trotting off around the galaxy to find Leia, leaving Luke unprotected, which was his only job. Also, the kidnapping of Leia. So there are these 3, well, one's a human, 2 are aliens, who kidnap her while she's running off in the woods where she's not supposed to be because, that's just what princesses do, apparently. Do you know when... do you know when you're playing chase with a 10-year-old, right? And you don't want, because you're an adult, you can easily catch a 10-year-old, but you don't want to catch them because you want it to be a fun chase for the 10-year-old. So you do that sort of lurching from side to side run. So you're covering as much distance side to side as you are forwards, so you don't catch them. So these aliens are chasing after Leia like that. Because that's the only way the director could make the chase believable. And then Leia runs under this branch in the forest. And when I say runs under, she doesn't even have to duck, because it's like a foot above her head. Or in other words, at chest level with one of the aliens chasing after her, who apparently doesn't see it and blunders right into it. You know, it's the most shit, ham-fisted chase scene you have ever seen in your life. And then I thought, okay, this is kind of bad, but it's not completely terrible. So I got through the first 2 episodes, and then I get to the 3rd episode, and it hits rock bottom and starts to dig. You've got the scene where Ben and Leia are on this planet, and it's kind of like a high chaparral desert, but with, you know, cactus and scrub sort of thing. And there's a road going through this pass with a laser gate on it, defended by a bunch of stormtroopers. And he kills the stormtroopers, and he has to get through this gate. So he can't deactivate the mechanism, so he just pulls his blaster and shoots it. But there's nothing. It's just a gate. There's no wall on either side of it. It's literally, he could just walk around it. It is that fucking stupid. And then, just when you thought things couldn't possibly get any worse, Vader comes to this planet to confront him. And remember, he doesn't know that Vader is actually Anakin Skywalker. It's the big reveal. You know, they haven't seen each other in 10 years. And the last time they met...
He does know by that point.
Okay, at that point he does know because he's been told. Yeah. But he's been told by somebody who couldn't possibly know. Yeah. But anyway.
Played by Moses Ingram.
Right.
This show is actually a comedy.
Oh. So, he's confronting Vader. Remember, they haven't seen each other in 10 years. Right? He thought that Anakin was dead. And the last time they met, he hacked both of his legs and one of his arms off and left him for dead on Mustafar. Right? He kicked his ass. So, honestly, if you didn't know better, you would think you were watching a comedy. Because not only so Vader confronts him, they're standing opposite each other across this open stretch of sand. Both of them got their lightsabers out. And it's like, Obi-Wan, we meet again, and so on and so on. And Kenobi just looks at him and runs. And that's the big confrontation that's been 10 years in the making. And then, Obi-Wan's running, okay? And Vader, because Vader doesn't run after anybody, walks slowly and purposefully across the desert after him, and somehow always manages to be ahead of Kenobi in time for the next confrontation. Apparently he's way stronger in the Force than anybody gave him credit for. But not so strong in the Force that he can use the Force across fire. Because that's how Kenobi eventually gets away. There's a wall of fire between him and Vader. And stormtroopers can't shoot through fire. All the stormtroopers with Vader. And Vader can't use the Force through fire. Because those are the rules now, apparently. And that is just how mind-bogglingly shit that 3rd episode was. And so, no, I haven't watched the 4th episode. And when I'm in the mood for some light comedy entertainment, I will probably watch the 4th episode. But it was such a letdown.
You said stormtroopers can't shoot through fire, right?
Yes.
I thought stormtroopers couldn't shoot for shit anyway. So what would it matter?
I realise this is the meme, but here's the thing. We're not really getting off topic. But in Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, every time you see stormtroopers shooting at somebody who has plot armour, they miss. Every time you see stormtroopers shooting at somebody who does not have plot armour, the stormtroopers kick ass.
Yeah.
They swept the Tantive 4 at the beginning of Star Wars and slaughtered everybody who didn't stick their hands up. They walked through Echo Base in Empire like there was no fucking resistance. It's only when they're shooting at Luke, Leia, or Han that they couldn't hit the side of a bomb from the inside. And it's the same with TIE fighter pilots. How many X-Wing and Y-Wing pilots survived the first Battle of the Death Star? One X-Wing,
Luke, wasn't it?
one Y-Wing, one unnamed Y-Wing pilot made it out. There were 2 survivors from 2 squadrons, all killed by TIE fighter pilots. So, yeah, I realise the meme is, if stormtroopers were shooting at Star Trek red shirts, who would win? The stormtroopers, because they'd all miss, but the red shirts would die anyway. Right?
Yeah.
That's the meme. But stormtroopers are actually dangerous badasses. It's only when they're shooting at people with plot armor that they can't hit anything. Every other opportunity that they had to kick Rebel arse in all of the movies, Rebel arse got kicked. And on that bombshell... Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, someone come up with, the monk in Rogue One?
Yes.
And he's walking across and they're shooting all around him and nothing's hitting him.
Yeah.
Someone come up with the idea that the plot armor is actually the Force protecting them.
Yeah.
So they can fulfill their destiny.
Yeah, has to be. There you go. A logical in-universe, context-correct explanation for plot armor. There you go.
Otherwise known as magic.
Yes. And on that bombshell, I'm sorry that we didn't get to answer all of the questions, but I never... Oh, people are already reacting. The chase scene in Kenobi, when the aliens are lurching from side to side because it's too easy for an adult. The chase scene, I've been laughing while watching from Flimsy Lunch Tray. Yeah. The comments are coming through. Tall Data the Sad is saying that episode 4 of Kenobi explains some of the stuff you're talking about, Jingles, and some of the inconsistency. They left those out of episode 3 for plot suspense reasons. They left those out of episode 3 for fucking ridiculous reasons. Apparently they didn't want anybody to watch episode 4. I mean, I'll give it a go, I'm sure I will. But yeah, Kenobi's a fucking train wreck. So, at least thus far. Who knows? It may end up not being completely shit. And I'm definitely going to, for the, I think, 4th and final time now, say, and on that bombshell, that is it for this live Q&A on the Saltmine Discord server. And if you're watching this on YouTube, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Thanks you. I've got to speak English, but yeah. Thank you to everybody who came. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to all of the admins for organising everything once again. And we will almost certainly be doing this, maybe not exactly the same time or the same place, but next month at some point. I'll have a word with Grumps later on and we'll figure out when we're going to do this next. In the meantime, as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.